name is John Burdick, and I'm with Grove Audio. We've been in business making mainly MU or Mogh type modules since 2005, and lately we've added also some Eurorack modules, and we're trying to get some crossover between the two in terms of functionality. Well, I'd had an interest in it since I was in high school, but lately one year I decided I wanted to have a synthesizer to play around with. I'd built a digital synthesizer several years ago, probably about 20 or 25 years ago, using Z80 microprocessors and some of the Curtis chip-based monolithic oscillators, filters, and ADSRs. And unfortunately, I got rid of that system, so then I decided I wanted to try doing that again, but I settled on the 5U format as a starting point. At first, I was building these systems just for my own use and my own modules, but later on, I came up with a couple of modules that I found people were interested in buying, so I started building some extra ones and selling them surprisingly successfully. Started out with a couple here in this system that I have, the dual VC voltage controlled LFO. That was the first module, and it incorporates two oscillators, and it also has internal VCA for each channel. And then later on, I came up with a recreation of the PM resonator, the Mogh resonator filter from your Mogh Poly Mogh, and is that Poly Mogh then, I suppose? And also a little later on added the ladder filter section from the same unit as a separate module, so you can basically, using these two modules, have the full filter section from the Poly Mogh. This is the latest one I'm working on right now. It's called the Polywave Player. What this is a sample player that will play back up to 14 samples of 16-bit 44.1 kilohertz stereo wave files. You don't need to do any encoding or anything. It plays back the raw file, and it plays it off of a micro SD card directly. So basically, you're limited to only for the sample playback by the size of the card. It has some trigger inputs, and it has also a MIDI input that allows you to select one of 16 banks that are ready to play. Each bank contains up to 128 possible samples, one sample corresponding with each MIDI note. I've got something queued up here with some drum samples which I can play. This is being synchronized by Ableton Live through a DIN 24 clock connection going to this Arturia, which has, I'm using the drum sequencer in here, and I've got a little, not great, but a little drum sequence programmed here. So the MIDI output of this is driving the wave player through the MIDI port. The advantage of this is that it can use all 16 drum sequence channels, whereas the gate and trigger outputs from the Arturia only allow you to use 8 of those. So I have programmed in here the Mellotron, what they call the Mellotron mixed chorus sample bank, and I can play a little of that. That we can play back polyphonically, because as long as we don't run out of playable channels, right? that all right? So, that's one of the possibilities. That's using up one of the MIDI channels. I've also got the 3 violin Mellotron sample set programmed in here, but I would have to send the signal to it on MIDI channel 2. This is on MIDI channel 3. MIDI channel 1 is the channel that contains the drum samples. At the same time that all of those are available, you can have the bank 0 triggered by these gate level trigger inputs. So that's also available simultaneously, as long as you don't run out of the it'll take up one of the 14 possible output playback channels. So I've got all the software's done. I'm waiting on panels right now and one printed circuit board revision. I'm missing one little board right here. The introductory price should be around $359. Yes, we have a couple of newer modules that are in the post-production stages and beta testing right now. This module here is a dual VCO module. This is a pretty full-function VCO. It has a possibility of a sine triangle, pulse, square, or sawtooth output. And it also contains an internal analog switch that allows you to select one of those channels and route it to an internal VCA. This would be if you were setting up something like a paraphonic patch and you needed to trigger each oscillator individually from your Midi De Cv converter. That internal amplifier could be used to modulate the output. And then it also has a calibrated range switch on each channel. It has hard sync and soft sync input too, as well as the exponential and linear FM inputs. The next module is just a simple utility mixer that we are coming out with, and it has 4 input channels, and it provides a positive and inverted outputs. We also have the recreation of the Mogh 904A ladder filter. This is a pretty close recreation. I tried to get all the parts similar to what was used in the original unit, and there's only one addition, which is that I added a input level control from to the input, because the original filter, the level input was very sensitive, and so this allows you to attenuate the signal somewhat and bring it down to more normal synthesizer levels. That's, as I might have mentioned, is also available as a kit for intermediate level kit builders. And then this is a new VCA module. It's a dual channel VCA that uses the Cool Audio 2164 type of operational transconductance amplifier. So it's a very low distortion module, distortion on the level of about 0.5% or less. And that has attenuators on the inputs, and it also will do either a log or a linear response to the control voltage. So you can use it for attenuating control inputs in the linear mode or audio inputs in the logarithmic mode. And then I just grabbed this one out of here. This is this is the prototype. Yes, this is the mystery module. You get to guess what actually this is a 4-band parametric equalizer, similar to the type of equalization you would have in a professional audio desk type mixer. and it has the difference that this has between the difference between a parametric and a filter bank is that this will allow you to both boost and cut the response in the particular band, whereas a filter bank usually can only boost it. It has fixed frequency inputs on the low band and the high band that have 3 possible frequencies, and on the middle bands they range from over a range of about 10 octaves and are variable in frequency from probably about 100 hertz up to about 20 kilohertz, depending on which band you choose. And then we also have a Q control so that we can get very narrow band, Q for that particular filter band, or a very wide one if you're doing like just general frequency equalization. And there's a equalization defeat switch here. Well, we've got some new Eurorack modules too. This year we're going to be getting this through zero oscillator out. It's a through zero digital oscillator, and it is both FM and PM. So it's a little different than the conventional ones that you see, in that it will do a phase modulation also. The advantage of phase modulation, of course, in a musical setting is that it doesn't go out of tune as you vary the amount of FM modulation that you're inputting, because you're only changing the phase, which in mathematical terms is roughly equivalent to changing the frequency, but with maintaining a constant carrier frequency. This module here is a dual channel VCA, which is similar to the MU version, in that it's 2 channels. It has the log or linear response, and it has the 2164 type amplifier again. And down here, this is a little Midi De Cv converter. I don't know, you probably can't see it very well, but it's similar to the mutable instrument CV PAL, but it has some additional capability in that it has the standard DIN MIDI in and out, and it'll connect to a computer via the USB MIDI cable, and it can be used as a USB MIDI to DIN MIDI converter. So it'll pass those signals through, and it'll also generate 2 control voltages and 2 gate signals. The accompanying module for this one is this guy here. It's what we call the USB host module for that module, and that will allow you to connect a USB only keyboard or some other type of control device, like this guy here, the little sequencer USB connected pad, and it'll host this module, and it'll also provide the power to the module through the USB cable. It has the ability to supply up to 500 milliamps of power to the USB device. Thanks for stopping by.